Daniel from Success Academy. You're listening to Radio Lex, the voice of the people, WLXU 93.9 LPFM.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome everybody to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you can stream the show live from the station website at radiolex.us to listen to us from anywhere in the entire world. I am broadcasting from the Deborah Hensley Studios here at Radio Lex on North Limestone. It is April the 3rd, 2025. We are in a brand new month. This year just seems to be flying by. I hate April Fool's Day. We just got past that. It's my least favorite day of the year because you don't know what's true. You're just getting bombarded with lies. Let's call them what they are. They're lies. People telling you such and such died, so and so happened. It's a very frustrating day. So I'm glad that we made it through the worst day of the year, April Fool's Day. But it is April 3rd, a brand new month, and folks, so much has been happening across the world. So what I want to do to open up the show is just kind of tell you what's trending around the world. So many current events, and that starts with Donald Trump saying that he plans to run for a third term, which is a ridiculous statement. I don't believe that any person should be reelected to a third term, nor should they be allowed to run for a third term. Now, assuming the U.S. elections don't get suspended, there's no way they'll be able to push through a constitutional amendment. The 22nd Amendment speaks clearly that no person can run for a third term. Why would anybody want somebody to run for a third term? Well, there's these things, folks, called cults, and cults have followings, and there always is a leader of a cult. And basically, if you're in a cult, you believe that whatever the leader says is the gospel. And I believe that Donald Trump has a cult. Now, do I say that you're in the cult if you voted for Donald Trump? That's not what I'm saying. But if you hold on to everything he says like it's the gospel, and you don't think he can do no wrong, you might want to consider, am I in the Donald Trump cult? Now, there's a lot of things that I like about Trump, and there's a lot of things I dislike about Trump. And he does not need a third term as president. He just does not. It goes against our amendment. If there's no one to enforce the law and make him step down, then what is the good? What good is the law and the paper it's written on? And if that happens, folks, say goodbye to America as we know it, because that means that the law doesn't matter. Now, some say, oh, it's poppycock. He's just speaking out of his hind end. I don't know. Usually when Donald Trump says something, he means it. So I will not be surprised if he says and stays true to wanting to run for a third term. I think that a president should only serve 2 terms, and I'll leave it at that. What else is trending here in America? Well, 30 years after music icon Selena was murdered back in 1995, her murderer, Yolanda Salvador, is up for parole. Now, Selena just celebrated what would have been her birthday on March the 31st, but she was killed 30 years ago in 1995. She was the famous Hispanic American singer, and right when she started to get famous, she was murdered by her assistant. And her assistant's name was Yolanda Salvador. And because of that, she was sentenced to 30 years in prison, and now she is up for parole. She's 64 years old now, and she is serving in a prison in Texas. And she has tried to go up for parole before. It was denied, but now she's up for it again. And some are pointing to her release. A lot of people think that she could be released. And there is no exact date for when that decision will be made, but be on the lookout for that. What an awful way to die for that young lady, Selena. She was a beautiful girl. She was only like 23, 24 years old. She was just starting to make her mark in the music industry, and she was killed by her personal assistant. And the reason she was killed was because her father, Selena's father, realized that Selena's fan club, which Yolanda was over, was funneling money from her fan club, and she actually extorted $30,000 and pocketed it herself. And when Selena confronted her about it, Yolanda shot her and killed her. What a horrible, horrible way to go. But she is up for parole. Also, what's trending here in America, the World Series champions of 2024, the LA Dodgers, say that they will visit Trump at the White House on April the 7th. The Los Angeles Dodgers say they have accepted President Donald Trump's invitation to the White House to celebrate the World Series title. I think that's good. Regardless of who is in office at the time, I think you should go to that celebration. You should go to that ceremony. It's an American tradition, and I think that it will be something you never forget. So good for the Dodgers for agreeing to meet with Trump and to celebrate their win. Also trending in America, Steph Curry scores a 3-book deal, starting with a personal reflection on his life and career. So NBA superstar Steph Curry will be writing a series of 3 books, with the first book focusing on his life and his career. Writing books seems to be the way people go these days. A lot of people have co-writers with them, so they're not technically writing the book themselves. They have somebody else write it, and they kind of just approve what was written about them. But if you are a Steph Curry fan, there you go. That's something that you can look forward to. I personally have been considering and contemplating writing a book. I don't know what I want my book to be about. I've been tossing up ideas. I love fiction. I love horror. I love drama. I love thrillers. So I've been thinking possibly about writing a thriller fiction or a horror fiction, or maybe even a true story or a reflection of my life and career. I don't know how many people would be interested in reading my book, but that is something that I am tossing around, especially this summer, because I have so much free time. Also, what's trending in America is the restaurant chain Hooters goes bust and files for bankruptcy protection, Chapter 11, as a matter of fact. And that just kind of points to the decline of the restaurant industry here in America. When somebody files for bankruptcy protection, they're pretty much saying that their company is in dismay. Their company is falling. Their company is failing. So I don't look for Hooters to be around much longer. There are currently 420 Hooters across 29 countries, and they all will still remain open, but this just kind of marks the beginning of the end for that franchise. Anytime somebody files for bankruptcy, it's not good. Red Lobster, TGI Fridays are also two other restaurants that have filed for bankruptcy protection. And that really frustrates me because I love all those restaurants. Hooters, Red Lobster, TGI Fridays. It just seems like more and more people are not eating out as much as they used to, or they're not enjoying the dining that these restaurants once served. So that is very sad. And here it says another thing trending is federal prosecutors seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangonia in the United Healthcare CEO killing. That is the rich young man who killed a person or people. I can't remember if it was more than one. Maybe it was just one that he killed. And now they're seeking the death penalty for that guy. So that, folks, is just a few things trending, a few things happening across America or across the world, you could say. And current events has always been a big part of Off the Cuff. I feel like we've neglected talking about current events for a long time due to specific topics that we like to talk about. But those are kind of the main things happening, here in America. I also, before I come on the air, I read that Val Kilmer passed away. Apparently he passed away yesterday. If you don't know who Val Kilmer is, he played Batman back in the day, back in the 80s and the 90s. He was, I believe he was in the Batman, it might have been Batman Returns, or it might have been Batman Forever. I'm not really sure. I think it was Batman Forever is when Val Kilmer played Batman. And he also was in Top Gun. But a legend. We lost another legend. So that, folks, is what's trending in America. And I'm sure there will be more to talk about next week when it comes to what's trending. But those are the biggest headlines for this week. Folks, we have a great show ahead of you today. We have a special guest coming on at the 4:30 mark. The very talented Jeremy Zeller will be back in studio. I've had him on the show before. He was a multiple winner at the Lexington Music Awards this past March. And he is going to come in. He's going to talk about his wins. He's going to talk about what's new in his life. And I'm just very excited to have another conversation with Jeremy Zeller. So look forward to that in the third segment of the show. But folks, stick with us. We have a great show ahead of you. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We will be right back.
This is Kate Savage of Arts Connect and host of Lexington's Art Bubbles Bluegrass. You're listening to Radio Lex, the voice of the people. WLXU 93.9 LPFM, Lexington, Kentucky.
Radio Lex only exists in our community because of the generosity of supporting members like Arthur Sechet. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the voice of the people. To learn how you can become a supporting member, visit radiolex.us/donate.
Cet hiver, protégez tous les membres de votre famille en recevant votre vaccin annuel contre le Covid et la grippe. Pour en savoir plus, consultez le site lfcht.org.
WLXU 93.9 LPFM broadcasts live 24/7 from the Deborah Hensley studio inside the Gray Line station. Deborah Hensley, State Farm Agent. DeborahHensley.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Got some ominous music playing in the background. Conspiracy theories is something that people love to talk about. Everybody's got their own conspiracy theory about something in the world. Now, a conspiracy theory is something that people believe is true. They usually believe it is something the government is hiding. It's something that they believe to be true with all of their heart, even though there is no scientific evidence for it. And there have been a lot of conspiracy theories out there. We've talked about conspiracy theories on the show, but folks, I read an article the other day that talked about the most believable conspiracy theories out there in the world. Now, there's a lot of them, but according to this article, these are the most believable that are out there today. For instance, one conspiracy theory that most people find very believable is that the government removed cursive from the education curriculums because all of our oldest country documents are in cursive. And if we can't read them, we can't defend ourselves against the government. Another conspiracy theory that a lot of people believe is that no one sees the same colors. No one sees the same colors. What I see as blue, you don't really see as blue. You see it as a different shade. Same thing with red or pink or yellow or orange. And there could be a lot of truth to that. There's no proof. You really can't prove the exact color that people see. When I look at the sky, when we all look at the sky, we see blue. But are we really seeing the same shade of blue? Same thing with the grass. We see green grass, but is it the same shade of grass that we see? Another believable conspiracy theory out there that most people believe is that a lot of celebrities fake their death to live normal lives. We've been hearing that for years. Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, Tupac. A lot of people say they really aren't dead. They fake their deaths so they could live a normal life. Now, if there was one person to ever do that, that would be Michael Jackson. In some ways, he loved his fame, but in a lot of ways, he hated his fame because he was so daggone famous. He couldn't go anywhere without being noticed, and that would take a toll on anybody. And a lot of people think that people like Michael and Elvis, Tupac, people who had really big fame in their life, faked their death so they could live a normal life. And a lot of people think that these people are still walking the earth today just in disguise. Another conspiracy theory out there that most people believe is that the purse company and women's pants companies work together by making pockets smaller so women need purses more. Interesting thought. Another believable conspiracy theory out there is aliens. That's definitely one that a lot of people believe. And why not? I mean, honestly, there is no way that we are the only ones on Earth. Now, do I believe in aliens? Now, if you got to really describe and define what an alien is. An alien is something that is not human. An alien is something that exists kind of just in outer space. Now, I don't think the aliens look like what Hollywood has portrayed them to look like. And I don't necessarily think that there are other lives on different planets, living in houses, going to work 9 to 5, doing radio shows, washing their car. You know, I don't think that. But I do believe that there are things out there in the world. I think they're spirits, and I've talked about that before. And one day on this show, I'm going to go into depth of what I think is out in outer space when it comes to spirits. But aliens, you can call those spirits if you want. And if you want to call an alien a spirit, then yeah, I do believe in aliens, because I do think that spirits exist in outer space. That's why I would never go to outer space. I'm good. I don't need to see what's up there. I'm good. I'm good right here on planet Earth. Another conspiracy theory that a lot of people believe that is true is that the TikTok ban was a subtle campaign for Trump. Maybe. I mean, it was kind of convenient that it all really started to come to fruition right around Trump's election. Now, there is a chance that TikTok still could get banned. Trump is very confident in the fact that it is not going to get banned. He says that there are plenty of potential buyers here in this country that will pay for TikTok. So if they do buy TikTok, it won't shut down. The moon landing wasn't fake, but the footage was. Now, I believe that. I don't think the moon landing was fake. I do think that we went to the moon. But that little footage that we show of the astronauts saying, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, that was fake. Stop. That was fake. In my opinion, I think that was a fake. I think that was produced in a studio. I'm not saying that we did not land on the moon. And I'm not saying that. I think that we did. I think that we literally landed on the moon. We went to the moon. We've been to the moon before. But that footage of Neil Armstrong was recorded in a studio. It was just too Hollywoodish for it not to have been. College is expensive to keep people signing up for the military. Interesting thought. College has gotten way out of hand, and one way you could waive college tuition is to join the military. It would be a good tactic. Getting rid of life skill classes was a plot to get Gen Z more reliant on AI and technology. Interesting to think about. I mean, why is it that we have neglected life skill classes such as cooking or construction or finance, a lot of practical living classes? Why do we neglect classes like that? Interesting thought. Another conspiracy theory, a very sad conspiracy out there, and I hope this is not true, but one says that this is a conspiracy theory that is very believable, and it is that there has been a cure for cancer, but the treatment that hospitals make off of the treatment, the money that they make is so profitable for them that they actually still have a cure for cancer, but they won't reveal it to the public because they make so much money off of the treatment. Now, that would be the meanest thing that this country has ever done. That would be the meanest thing that anyone could ever do, to let people suffer just for the benefit of getting $1. But if you think about it, folks, if you think about it, you really don't know what you can put past people, especially when it comes to the almighty dollar. The love of money is the root of all evil. Money is not the root of all evil, but the love of money is the root of all evil. Another conspiracy theory that most people find believable that is out there is that the lady on the plane saw something. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do you remember that video that was released, I think it was last year, where that girl was kicked off the plane and she said she wasn't going to fly on the plane because somebody that she saw on the plane wasn't a real person? And you don't know what she was talking about. She was clearly drunk when she was talking, but she seemed convinced. In her head, she seemed convinced that this person was something that was not human. I don't know if she saw like a spirit or an alien or whatever you want to say, but a lot of people think that she actually really did see something because she seemed so convinced. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of strange people out there with a lot of strange physical features, so maybe she saw something that she just did not see as normal. And when you mix alcohol into the bit, I mean, she could have saw anything. Her mind could have made up something, but I don't know. But those folks, those conspiracy theories are the most believable conspiracy theories out there according to this article. So you tell me, is there a conspiracy theory out there that you've heard that you just believe with all of your heart and you believe it to be true with all of your heart? Let me know. Write it in on the show thread and we'll talk about it. But folks, we are going to take another quick break. Stick with us. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We'll be right back.
Radio Lex has the support of Lexmark International. Lexmark.com.
Every donation to Radio Lex makes a difference. Many of our donors tell us they wish they could give more. If you're looking to get rid of a vehicle but don't want the hassle of selling it or fixing it, consider donating it to Radio Lex. Donating your car is a fast, safe, and easy way to support the programming you value. Make a difference by donating your unwanted vehicle. Just go to radiolex.us/car.
The more you listen to your kids, the closer you'll be. So we asked kids, what do you want your parents to hear?
I feel sometimes that I'm not listened to. I would just want you to listen to me more often and evaluate situations with me and lead me towards success.
Listening is a form of love. Find resources to help you support your kids and their emotional well-being at sounditouttogether.org. That's sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Pivotal.
Radio Lex only exists in our community because of the generosity of supporting members like Gemma Kaluski. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the voice of the people. To learn how you can become a supporting member, visit radiolex.us/donate.
Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Today's national holiday is American Circus Day. Everybody knows what the circus is. Today is the day to celebrate the circus. I've not been to a circus in a long time. I mean, I really don't feel like I have to because of so many clowns walking the earth today. But today is your day to celebrate the circus. How do you celebrate American Circus Day? Well, you could visit a circus, look for your local listings of when the circus is coming to town. Usually, they like to come to town in the summertime. You could use the hashtag America Circus Day on your social media. The circus is fun because they have all of these daring acts. You got people taming tigers. You got people walking on tight ropes. There are all kinds of daring acts that the circus brings to town, and it puts people on the edge of their seat. Some of the most daring acts of all time is the Peerless Lady wing shot. Annie Oakley once shot a lit cigarette out of her husband's mouth and also shot the edge of a playing card from 30 paces away. Another daring act, Lillian Letzel, was an acrobat who performed acrobatic tricks while hanging from Roman rings suspended 50 feet above the ground, all without a safety net. What about the amazing tightrope walker? Charles Blodden was a tightrope walker on several occasions. He balanced on a 1,300-foot hemp rope stretched across the American and Canadian sides of Niagara Falls. Can you believe that? Now, one time, this wasn't necessarily the circus, but I watched somebody tightrope from one side of the Trade Center to the other. He put a tightrope in between the trade centers and he walked across the tightrope. This was real, folks, and he did it with ease. You can find that documentary on Netflix. It was fascinating. I hate heights anyway, and it was freaking me out, the fact that he was so far up with all of that wind hitting him, because, you know, the higher up you go, the windier it gets. And he was up at the main top, the highest platform that you could go to in America at the time, and he walked across the tightrope. Walked across a tightrope, and he successfully did it. And then when the cops tried to pull him off, he would turn around and run in the other direction. Run on the tightrope. Fascinating. Fascinating. And then also the world's greatest bareback horse rider, Mae Worth, was an equestrian who could perform a forward flip on horseback and could also somersault from one moving horse to another. And what about the great lion tamer? Isaac Amberg would dress up in a Roman attire and perform daring acts with lions, tigers, and leopards, even letting them climb his back and shoulders. Look, you're playing with death, folks. At the end of the day, I don't care how trained these animals are. It just takes a quick snap for them to just snap out of that little days that you got them in and eat you alive. Eat you alive. Why do we love circuses? Well, they're fun, and we also like to celebrate brave acts. And all of these people who do these acts are very brave individuals. So happy American Circus Day to everyone. Folks, as I mentioned in the top of the hour, we have a special guest coming on the show today. That is Mr. Jeremy Zeller. He's been on the show before, but I wanted to have him back because he just keeps succeeding with his career, and I always enjoy conversing with Jeremy. Jeremy Zeller is a multiple winner at the Lexington Music Awards, and he is an artist from a small town of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, known for his powerful vocals, described as having the growl of a dog and the whisper of a kitten. Jeremy blends raw energy with delicate intimacy in his performances. His electrifying live shows captivates audiences, while his deeply personal songwriting resonates with listeners. Drawing from his family's rich musical heritage and the musical influences of his Kentucky roots, Jeremy's music encompasses elements of country, blues, and rock. As the frontman of Jeremy Zeller and The Other Side, he is creating a sound that is uniquely his own in the heart of the bluegrass state. Jeremy's songwriting is deeply reflective of his life experiences, exploring themes like struggle, pain, and recovery. His live performance, Jeremy Zeller and The Other Side, A Story of Recovery and Discovery, invites audiences into his journey. Through powerful, vulnerable storytelling, Jeremy tackles subjects such as addiction and recovery, growing up diagnosed with autism, young love, divorce, religious trauma, and a blended family life. The heart of Jeremy's music is captured in the phrase, once blind, now I see. Once dead, now I live. His songs serve as a musical reflection of the hero's journey with rhythm and melody, helping to tell his story of transformation. In addition to music, Jeremy is an advocate for autism awareness, being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder as an adult, and he says that has helped him understand life from a new perspective, turning previously gray areas into a vibrant, colorful world. Through his platform, he raises awareness and encourages others to embrace the beauty of their unique experiences. So, before we bring Jeremy into the studio, I would like to play the song that won Jeremy an award at the Lexington Music Awards. And it's this song right here. It's called It's Hard to Be Young, and this will be Off the Cuff's Song of the Week. So when we come back from the song, folks, we will have live in person Jeremy Zeller himself. We'll be back. Man, wherever you feel comfortable. You can sit right there if you want. Probably get more room. And then if you want to come over here and sit, I want to put you on the air. Don't let this microphone scare you. Man, thank you so much for coming in again. I know you're busy. You got all kinds of things happening and going on.
It's been getting a little busy, yeah.
Now, if you want to adjust your headphones, you just use that.
Oh, cool.
And kind of what I want to do is just chit-chat a little bit about everything. No, you're totally good, man. You're totally good. We'll put it here that way. But then we'll kind of just have you like play in between our conversation. Talk a little bit, then we'll play, and then we'll talk a little bit more, and then you'll play again.
So, am I going to plug into anything, or just kind of pick around?
You just pick around. The microphones will set up. It comes through perfectly, so. And I'll control everything. You won't have to worry about adjusting volume or anything. I love this song, by the way.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Enjoyed playing it.
Now, how many awards did you end up going home with the other night?
4.
That was awesome, man.
Thanks.
Very cool. And this was one of them, right?
Yep. I was very happy about this one. Of all of them, this one was the most meaningful. To have Malachi sitting next to me when I won was pretty special.
That is cool. And how old is he now?
He's 19.
Man,
Well, he'll be 20 in June. So yeah,
crazy. They grow up fast. I would have never pictured you with a 20-year-old.
I've got a 26-year-old and a grandson.
You're a grandpa?
I'm a pop.
He'll be a year old next month. All baby.
That's amazing, man.
Thank you.
Is that what he calls you, Pop?
Pop.
All right, here we go. All right, that was Jeremy Zeller with the beautiful song, It's Hard to Be Young. Jeremy, my man, thank you so much for being here, friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And you've been on the show before. I think it was right around this time last year, and we talked about all of your wins at the Lexington Music Awards. Nothing was no different this year, man. You dominated with 4 wins, 5 nominations?
Yes.
5 nominations,
5 nominations,
4 wins. If you're doing the math at home, that's like a 95% win rate. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It just made sense to bring you on again. And man, not just to talk about music. I'm just fascinated with your story. I'm fascinated with, your testimony. And I've not really got to talk to you about it, man. And you're very religious.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you even like to use the word religious.
Not typically. I'm more of a spiritual guy, but, I understand the sentiment behind saying that.
Exactly. And, I'm kind of the same way. When somebody says, are you religious? I know what they mean by it.
Yeah.
But I always like to say I am a Christian. I am a sinner saved by grace.
I'm a Christ follower.
Yes.
Like if I needed to put a definition on it, I'm a Christ follower.
Yes. So, man, let's talk about that because I'm just fascinated with it, your story. How did that come about for you? Were you always a believer? And when did that happen for you?
Yeah. God has been in my life my entire life. And I praise him for that. I was raised in a family with a mom and dad that made that important. And so as a kid, I can still remember as a 3-year-old, I was on the couch watching Jesus of Nazareth. It was like the 1976, 77 version of Jesus of Nazareth.
It's a good movie.
Oh, it's my favorite movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I still watch it like once a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I can remember a moment in that at the end, as Christ was being crucified. I don't know, man. There was just something really special in that moment where I had always heard this name over the course of my life, and then sitting down with my mom and my brother and watching that story play out. And for me, when I saw my mom's reaction to this man dying that she loved and had told me about, even though I was 3, that really has stuck with me since. I can tell you what the texture of the couch was, where she was sitting, where my brother was. It was just a special moment. And so I can remember over the course of those years just kind of beginning to understand what God meant to me. And that was, all the way through into, high school, even as a youth group guy, I was always very involved in that stuff. And then outside of high school, I went on my own little journey. Outside of the church, just like any teenager does. I moved to LA to do some acting stuff, and I moved back. It was look, especially I'm late diagnosed autistic, so there's a lot about my life that I've had to reflect over through the mind of who I was as even then as an autistic kid, And some of the things that I've gotten myself into is pretty funny. And LA was a lot of that for me. I was just an alien in this world that I knew that I didn't want to raise a family there. So even then as a young man, I knew, no, I got to come back to Kentucky.
So, you said something pretty profound. A lot of people, even when they come to Christ at a young age, a lot of people, they get into their teenage years, they get into their young adulthood, and they move away, and they're just engulfed in all of this sin, and they fall away. But the great thing about Christ is he's always willing and always accepting us for us to come back to him. So was there a particular moment in your life? Do you remember the time, the age you were where you're like, you know what? I'm sorry. Like I want to get back to where I was.
Yeah, I think anybody that has lived a consistent life with the Lord understands that there's multiple moments like that. There's multiple different kinds of awakenings that you can have within your own spirit that help you realize that, Christ is the same. He still loves you. He's still, the sacrifice remains, and the teachings as well. And so, yeah, several moments. I can remember as a 15-year-old when I'm, because I was born in Kentucky, and then as like a 7-year-old went to Chicago, grew up in the suburbs of Chicago until I was 15. And then when I came back, I had one of those moments, and I was like, I am recommitting myself to the Lord. And I was really serious about it. And that, honestly, that commitment to the Lord lasted up until when I was like 40.
Yeah.
And then when I was 40, man, I was a mess. This was pre-autism diagnosis. I was smack dab in the middle of my own addiction journey with pills. It was, I had gotten a divorce at the time. And I also left the church that I loved. And so I was in a really, really heavy spot. But thank God for therapy, and even more for God's grace, man. Because at the end of that, that was about till 2017. 2017, I literally just walked away from the church. I was born into the church, raised by it, employed by it. I was as into the church as one could be in America. And so I walked away from that in 2017 because of a multitude of reasons. I can blame myself as much as I can blame anybody else, especially in the church. The church is a beautiful, beautiful collective group of people as a whole. For me, my favorite part of working with the church was being able to work with the volunteers, because that's where you find the heart of a church. And so, in 2017, I walked away from that, and I paid for that. My spirit paid for that, because I spent about 5 years. I didn't want to hear about God. I had just lost my entire family in my mind. Going through a divorce. I gave up on love. I gave up on myself. I gave up on any goodness that I could have possibly had in me. But the beautiful part about my own journey is that I have drawn on the lessons of Jesus my whole life. And yes, I myself willingly was a participant in not wanting to hear anything about God, but that's the part of my life that paid for it. I was an addict because of it. I was, really, really, my mental health I was suicidal. I was in a bad place. And so, Jesus met me on the floor. I'll sing a song about it later.
Yeah.
You wanted me to sing a few. I'll share that one with you. Jesus met me on the floor, and it was as tangible of an experience as I've ever had in my life.
Well, that's amazing. The Lord chastiseth his children to bring us back. It sounds like that's what he was doing. And sometimes people wonder, why is he, why is my life going this way? Why is it happening? And I think it's simply because he's showing you, he's punishing you. He wants you to come back. And that's exactly.
I don't know that it's punishing, or if it's just he's letting you have your free will. He's letting you have your cake and eat it too.
Yes, like he's almost kind of he almost turns you over to that sin and lets you live in that for you to experience it and to show you that there's no good that comes from it.
Yep.
But thank God for his grace. I love that. And I could talk about it all day.
Anytime, bro.
I could talk about it all day with you. Now, you did mention that you were diagnosed with autism. When did you get diagnosed with that?
That was November 8th of 2021.
Okay.
That's when I was officially diagnosed. I had been going to therapy for a while for it. But
Now, a lot of people, when they hear that you have autism, there might be some misconceptions that people have. What do you feel like is the biggest misconception that people have about you when you tell them that you were diagnosed with autism?
Nowadays, it's getting easier because people understand that it's autism spectrum disorder. Like that there's this plethora of identities that one has as an autistic person. I'm very high functioning. It's nothing that my parents ever were even familiar with as I grew up, and I don't slight them at all. Actually, I'm grateful my parents didn't know that I was autistic as a kid, because I probably would have been sheltered. But my life has been just the opposite. I've had this freedom in my life because I was a pretty good kid, for the most part. I got into, some trouble and some shenanigans, but my parents have always given me this sense of freedom, and I would not have had that at all, I don't believe, had I had a doctor or a therapist telling my mother that this is who your son is. I was able to find it out on my own terms and in my own life, and I do believe that it's because of the story that God had put me through, including working with autistic kids and learning the brain that way. I learned the autistic brain completely removed from who I thought that I was. I was learning it about kids at the time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was at a therapist, and my therapist goes, hey, I got another guy that you really need to go see. He specializes in autism, and I'd like you to go talk to him. And so that's really where in my brain I was like, oh my gosh, because I've had people through the course of my life ask me that question, but I just did not. I thought that being autistic was like being mentally retarded, and it's very different. It's not, And so, but I was ignorant. I just didn't know. And so, but yeah, that was coming to terms with it once I had, a professional in front of me that I trusted, really allow me to walk myself through it, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, on the other side of it, it was like it's like I suddenly saw in color. It's like everything just made sense.
Well, you said that you speak about how your world was once black and white, and now it's colorful. Can you elaborate on how your understanding of the world and humanity has evolved since your diagnosis?
Yeah. How much time do we have? No, I can say, have you ever heard of Plato's Cave?
Plato's Cave.
So it's this analogy.
No.
It's like an ancient teaching type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is Plato tells this story of these men that are in a cave, and they're watching shadow play on the wall. There's a fire behind them that is casting shadows, and these men are in the cave, and they're just watching these shadows dance. And it's all they've ever known. They didn't even know, they don't know anything other than that. Their whole life has been this wall with this shadow dancing. But suddenly, someone says, hey, if you walk down that direction and walk outside, there's way more than just shadows here. And that's the analogy. The analogy is I was in a cave. I saw nothing but shadow play in my life, in my own way. And it was manifested in experiences throughout my life, the way that I've reacted, the way that I learn, the way that I create, the way that I communicate with people, and on and on and on. There's just so much of it where once I understood that this is a language that I can be proud of and not shameful of, because in my brain, I always felt different. I always felt like I wasn't completely being myself in front of people. I had a hard time not wearing a mask in front of people and just being whatever they needed me to be to survive the moment, And so part of my autistic journey myself is realizing which masks are even important enough anymore for me, as I go through this mental health journey. And I could go into the ways, especially for me, it's changed everything about the way that I learn. I got very bad grades in school, and I always had a thing about it. I always felt guilty about it, even as an adult. Then I went back to school, and I ended up getting a 4.1.
There you go.
Yeah, right? And so I didn't graduate, but that was a health thing with my daughter. I still have thoughts of going back. But it was I think I went back just to prove to myself, because I went a couple semesters, and I did really well, and it was I'm not dumb. And so,
You're certainly not dumb.
Well,
Jeremy.
no, but there was a real part of my life as a kid that experienced bad grades, that really thought that this is a reflection of my smartness.
And it's not. I feel like a lot of people base their intelligence off the grades they make. Some of the stupidest people I've met make great grades. And some of the smartest people that I've met just don't make the grades. And so that's the standard, and I feel like that's just kind of how people measure their intelligence, and I think that's silly. But Jeremy, I want to give you some time to perform live here on the radio. Talk about this song that you're going to play for us.
Well, I guess I'm going to play the song I just talked about.
Yeah.
The song, I used to refer to it as my autism song.
Mm-hmm.
This song was born out of basically a week of my life that so many things had happened in my brain for my mental health. Hindus call it moksha. It's a moment of awakening. It's just this moment of clarity, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I just had this moment of clarity about myself. You know, I had beat myself up for so long, thinking that I was discarded trash at that time. And when Jesus found me on the floor that day, he lifted me up, and he gave me new vision, and I suddenly saw in color.
Amen. Amen. Well, take it away, my friend.
Well, I suddenly see in color that I never would have known had I stayed there in that corner with my broken nightlight on. Just a kid there in the kitchen, face down on the floor, stick cocked at the doorway as the clock struck 3 once more. Oh, but I found out along the way that Jesus loves Judas the same, and that the atoms are made of empty space, and that Judas loves Jesus the same. Yes, I found out along the way that colors and sounds are all the same. Yes, I found out along the way that Judas loves Jesus the same. Now I stand here at the table, the scraps all on the floor, my family brought together by the years of tears and more. But I finally see the picture that's born down in my heart, hopes and fears of all the years my mind had yet to start. Oh, but I found out along the way that Jesus loves Judas the same, and that the atoms are made of empty space, and that Judas loves Jesus the same. Yes, I found out along the way that colors and sounds are all the same. Yes, I found out along the way that Judas loves Jesus the same. Yes, I found along the way, that Judas loves Jesus the same.
You wrote that?
I did.
Hey, the maturity in your lyrics too, man. Like, you know, you're just so wise. So how old are you?
I'll be 50. August 29th, baby.
50.
50 years old.
50, over the hill.
Yeah.
Some people say 40 is over the hill, so I'm...
Oh, man. I'm loving it.
Are you
Absolutely.
You like being an older person?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the gray in my beard. I love it. Look, I've had a lot of people that have struggled with aging and grasping it. But for me, man, I don't know, man. I might have found my inner child or something. But and it comes through in my art. So thank you for picking up on that.
Oh,
you know,
for sure.
I appreciate wise lyrics. I've always been a fan, you know. Michael Stipe is one of my favorite songwriters, REM, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Duritz from Counting Crows,
Yep.
Dustin Kensrue from Thrice. All these guys are just really wise and introspective as they write. So, yeah.
So what's next for Jeremy Zeller? Are there any upcoming projects or collaborations that you're excited to talk about?
Well, funny you ask that, Adam. There are.
Let's hear it, brother.
Yeah, actually, I've just teamed up with Danny Mickoff in Mill Springs Studio.
I love Danny.
Yeah. We are gonna. We're gonna do an album together. So yeah,
cool.
I'm going down there to Mill Springs to record with him. So that's something to definitely. I guess for me, I'm very excited about. I've been writing this album since 2012, so it's like I'm picking songs that fill those gaps. The project is called The Soundtrack for Healing, and it's essentially just my testimony put to music on a project. You know, where it's all consecutive, you know, stories one after the other to tell a broader story. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
So when is you need to go on tour? When's this happening? When are you going to go on a tour and just spread your music outside of the state?
Yeah, as soon as somebody says, "Hey man, want to go on tour?" or "Hey, you want to open up for this band?" Like this is what I do. I do this every day. You know, if I'm not doing it because I'm getting paid for it, I'm doing it because it is giving me an opportunity to share my music. I am very much at the place in this journey where I play more music and don't get paid for it than I play music and get paid for. So I'm trying to do this smart, you know, and I'll keep doing the work. I'll keep, you know, showing up every day until those opportunities come up for me. I believe they will. But I also know that I'm a difficult guy to pigeonhole. I'm too church for the churches, and I'm not church enough for I'm not church enough for the churches, and I'm too church for the bars in some cases. So I get it. Like I'm a wildcat in that. So, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But until I do get a phone call from somebody that says, "Hey man, let's go," I'll keep doing what I'm doing. You know, God is opening up so many cool doors to be able to share this story. And, you know, I'll share it under a bridge just as the same as I would share it on top of a mountain, you know, in front of a crowd, one person, doesn't matter.
Amazing. Well, Jeremy, I'm going to have you play us out. Before you go, tell everybody where they can get more information from you at. Throw out your social media handles.
Yeah. So on Facebook, you just look me up, Jeremy Zeller. I've got a YouTube channel called Jeremy Zeller on the Other Side, where I document a lot of things and I put out little episodes, and that's always fun. I've got a Patreon that I just started, patreon.com/Jeremy Zeller. Everything eventually is going to be funneled in that direction. Other than that, Instagram, all those fun things, TikToks, all those, I've got all those. I'm not crazy active on any of it, which is why I'm trying to do Patreon, because it's going to be like one community that I can go to. So, yeah.
Perfect. All right, well, as Jeremy tunes up that guitar, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We will be back, same time, same place next Thursday from 4 to 5. We're going to close you out with a performance from Jeremy Zeller. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here. And folks, we will see you next week.
Someone poisoned my wine and left me for dead and alone. The same one I counted on, the same one I once called home. But how could I be the one I spent a lifetime to warn? Of all of these lessons of forfeit and vanity, a lineage of tragedy, but I can't escape who you are. Well, my hands are open to you, the same way they've always been. And I know the lips of your wisdom are closed to those who never understand. Just take me away with you and lay me down in fields of green, with the water rushing over me. In the shadows of joy I'm alive, all death behind, it's just you and me. We'll make our own eternity. So now what do I do? Just let go of everything, everything next to me, everything that I once called home. Had me down on the ground, begging for the last of it all. Lay down my sword or my life will become one bad lesson for sons who never know who you are. So my hands are open to you, the same way they've always been. And I know the lips of your wisdom are closed to those who never understand. Just take me away with you and lay me down in fields of green, with the water rushing over me. In the shadows of joy I'm alive, all death behind, it's just you and me. We'll make our own eternity. Oh, they're kicking us out. Hey, thank you guys for watching along. I love you guys.
Oh, sorry. And you can sit out here. We just have another live show.
So sorry.
But feel free to.
Oh, I would have forgot that.
No, I